Welcome back to Mindful Serenity, and we are going to continue with our answering of questions from the jar. And the questions will hopefully be answered within a 3-minute time frame. I'm going to reach into the jar now and pull out a question, have a brief look at it so I make sure that I can read it. What is the difference between extrinsic guilt and intrinsic guilt? What is the difference between extrinsic guilt and intrinsic guilt? I will take a deep breath first, and I will start the timer. Of course, extrinsic refers to that which comes from the external, it comes from the outside in, and intrinsic is that which is generated on the inside and may be propagated on the outside. So the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic guilt is how it affects us, I suppose. Extrinsic guilt is that which has been externally conditioned in us to be guilty for the things that we do. Like, we're conditioned in a society with its values and its sanctions to behave a certain way, to think a certain way, and to say certain things. And when we fail to meet those expectations, we may be forced to experience guilt that comes from the outside, an external type of shaming, external type of punishment, external type of reprimand. Intrinsic guilt is guilt that comes from the inside. There's a sense of something being wrong with us. Intrinsic guilt, as far as I'm concerned, is more shame than guilt. It's more of this internalized sense that there's something wrong with us and that we are bad. Not necessarily what we do is bad, but we are bad. So intrinsic guilt generates this shame spiral that most of us have when we do something out there that doesn't meet social expectations. Now, these social expectations that we might meet may not necessarily be what the society considers sinful. It may not be law-breaking, but it may be the fact that we're not meeting these expectations we set for ourselves, basically, when we are dealing with other human beings. I am not enough. I can't do enough. I'm not as capable as, say, functioning in a social situation as somebody else. Therefore, I will have this intrinsic guilt whenever I go out there and I flub up. And our moral sense of right and wrong may differ, like an internal right sense of right and wrong may differ than what society says is right or wrong. Society may say it's perfectly okay to, for example, go out and eat meat. Most of the population eats meat. But you may have the sense of intrinsic guilt whenever you eat meat, and then you might start to explore it further and say, I'd rather not eat meat. Most of the time, I think extrinsic guilt has more power over us than intrinsic guilt. We tend to squish that little voice that tells us what we believe is right or wrong. And because shame is so nasty and it hides in the dark shadows of our beings, we are not often recognizing it when it comes up. And so it's just uncomfortable, so we push it back down. So I think we need to explore both sources. Our intrinsic guilt. Where is our sense of extrinsic guilt coming from? What conditioning did I have that made me believe that this was right or wrong, or that I'm bad because I did this? And then we have to explore what's internal in the form of our core beliefs, as well as what we have generated in a deeper knowing of what is right or wrong for us. So there is a difference between intrinsic and extrinsic guilt, but we need to explore both in order to heal from both. I believe guilt is something we need to heal from. It doesn't serve the purpose that we are conditioned to believe it does, as far as I am concerned. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.